Welcome to another edition of Think It Through, the program that inspires, educates, and motivates. Coming up on Think It Through this evening, we will have inspirational singing and instrumental music. We will have a continuation on the pillars of character development and our hot button topic, bridging the gap between the young and the aged. We will also have our value nugget. So we ask that you will stay tuned with us. I will be right back after the break for inspirational singing by Petal Chambers and prayer by Triasse. I don't know, I can't get that first name right, but we will have Dawes will be doing the prayer for us. Then we will be right back. So stay tuned.
Praise the Lord of heaven, praise the Lord of earth, praise Him for His mighty power, praise Him for His word. Praise the Lord, ye nations, praise the Lord, ye kings, praise Him all creation, and let your voices sing, praise the Lord. Shout with joy to God all the earth, sing glory to His name. His marvelous work, righteousness proclaim. sing, Hosanna, Hosanna, Lord of all eternity. Hosanna, Hosanna, raise your hands in victory. Hosanna, Hosanna, He's come to set His people free. He's come to set His people free. He's come to set His people free. Shout with joy to God, all the earth, sing glory to His name. Tell aloud His marvelous work, His righteousness proclaim. Glory and honor and blessing and power to the Lord. Come and let us make His praise. Make His praise. Make His praise. Glory. Shout with joy to God, all the earth. Praise the Lord of heaven.
Okay, we should have the prayer now by Dawes. Let us bow our heads as we pray. Sovereign God, we thank you so much for this evening and for allowing us the opportunity for another program. We now ask that you will guide us in our deliberations, and may your name be honored, we pray, in Jesus' name. We're delighted you here with us for another program, Think It Through. I want to thank very much Sister Petal Chambers for singing so lustily for us. She has taken us to heavenly places with her melodious singing. And that is what we're all about. We're getting ready now to go into our PowerPoint presentation. So we want you to remember that you will be getting a quiz. You will be getting a quiz at the end of this PowerPoint presentation. So we want you to pay attention as we go through this PowerPoint presentation this evening. Not moving. So stay tuned and remember that we will be heading into our PowerPoint right now. Here we are. So we are looking on the 6 pillars of character development. We have been going on that, and we looked at wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity. Then we will have justice, temperance, and the 6th is transcendence. And this is area that we will be focusing on, and we have been doing well, and we know that you have been learning a lot. We have been encouraged as we go forward. Well, this evening, we're going to look on pillar number 4, and that is justice. Justice. What it is? What is justice? Just behavior or treatment. The quality of being just. And I want you to pay attention to this carefully, because as we delve in our discussion this evening, then we will have to draw on a number of these things. So what is justice? Just behavior or treatment. The quality of being just, righteous, equitableness, or moral rightness, to uphold the justice of a cause, the maintenance of what is just, the law. And that is there from the online definition. Now, justice is a concept. Justice is a concept on ethics and law. That means that people behave in a way that is fair, behave in a way that is fair, equal, and balanced to everyone. Balance to everyone. What does the Bible say? What does the Bible say about justice? In Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 15, the Bible says, do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor. Watch this. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. And I think this is important for us as we interact and develop character. That is how we need to relate. Now, justice has 3 components. 3 components. Number 1, citizenship. 2, fairness. 3, leadership. 3 components: citizenship, fairness, and leadership. Well, this evening, we will be focusing on citizenship. Now, when we talk about citizenship, there are 3 areas that we will have to cover. 1, our social responsibility as a citizen. How loyal we are as a citizen, and the whole importance of teamwork. So it is social responsibility, loyalty, and teamwork. Now, citizenship, social responsibility, loyalty, and teamwork represent a feeling of identification with and sense of obligation to a common good that includes the self but stretches beyond one's own self-interest. So it is not just about us, but it goes beyond that. Okay? Very important that we keep that in mind. Very important that we keep that in mind. Note, the individual with these strengths has a strong sense of duty, works for the good of the group rather than for personal gain. The person is loyal to friends, can be trusted to pull his or her weight. This is very important. It's very important. Mute the mics for me, please. Very important that we do that as we go forward in this regard. So once we're a part of it, the person who is strong on citizenship, that possesses social responsibility, loyalty, and teamwork, then we will find the latter. It's very important as we go forward. Now, the individual is also a good teammate. It is very, very important. He or she possesses a generative spirit and a strong sense of responsibility for community or for the church. And the church here, the community would refer to the church. It is very, very important that we do that. Now, the common thread for people exhibiting these values is that they endorse public interest over self-interest goals and values by which to live. So it is no self-centeredness. They identify with the common good and want to make the world a better place for future generations. So if you're a part of a community, you're not just thinking about the community ministering to you, but you're thinking about what you can do to make the community a better place, not only for the present generation, but for those who will come after. Very important. Now, these individuals would endorse such statements as, once you are strong on social responsibility, you exhibit loyalty and teamwork, you will endorse these statements. Number one, I have a responsibility to improve the world in which I live. And I believe that all of us, including our young people, must understand that. And one of the things that we see that is lacking in our society today is the whole matter of civic pride. Civic pride. That is what we need to engender in our people, to know that what happens in our environment impacts us, because we need external support in order to support our lives. Everyone should give some of their time for the good of their church and community. So you can't just there by yourself. You must be willing. And another thing that is lacking is the whole matter of voluntarism. We need that kind of spirit to return, and that will be present in a person who develops this character trait of justice. It is important to me personally that I help others who are in difficulty. And that is another strength that we should develop. It is important to me personally to be involved in programs that clean up the environment and work to correct social and economic inequalities. So we must be fair and we must stand up for what is right to make sure that those things happen. These are very important. Now, citizenship, social responsibility, loyalty, and teamwork are not exact synonyms. And distinctions are important, and we must make the distinction between them. Now, apart from its reference to civic commitment and engagement, citizenship implies a legal status. So, for example, as Seventh-day Adventist young people, you are a part of a community. As Seventh-day Adventist members, you are a part of a community. The church is that community that you are called out to be a part of. And commitment and engagement is important. So you can't be a citizen within the community and you fail to exercise your commitment to the community or your engagement in the community. Because if you are in it, it implies that you have a legal status to be here. And with that legal status, it simply means that you have rights and responsibilities to carry out. It refers to membership in the community. And watch this. And the rights and obligations that are integral to that membership. So coming with that membership, you have rights and obligations. And once you're a part of the community, then you need to ensure that is done. So it is by virtue of his or her membership in a group or community that enjoys rights. But loyalty, allegiance, and a sense of duty to the group and its principles ensure those rights. So if you are not loyal, if you don't have any allegiance, if you don't demonstrate sense of duty within the community, you have abnegated your rights and the benefits thereof. So these are some important things that we need to keep in mind. Social responsibility is an orientation to help others, even when there is nothing personal to be gained from it. So we are not doing it because we're expecting something in return. We are doing it because we're a member of the community and it is our duty to do it. Loyalty connotes unwavering commitment, a bond of trust, whether in friendship or in fidelity to a group, its principles and cause. These are important areas that we must keep in mind. Teamwork refers to one's ability to work with others in the group. That is the presentation for this evening. Next week, we will continue with fairness and leadership. And next week, the value that we will be looking on is respect. Respect will be the value that we will be focusing on next week. But for here comes for your question. And I know you have been following. So here is your question. I know that Becky, Sister Bedford, has some excellent prizes that she went and purchased today. And I know that you will be more than happy to get a prize if you can get the answer to this simple question that I'm going to ask from the presentation this evening. So we are looking on pillar number 4, which is justice. And this evening we focus on citizenship. And within citizenship, I mentioned that there are 3 things in citizenship. Citizenship, there are 3 things. Remember, one begins with an S, right? In citizenship there, we are not talking about the 3 areas. Remember, when justice, we have 3 areas. Where we are talking in citizenship, there are three areas. So we ask you to mention those 3, and the first person to mention those 3 will win the prize. Go ahead, type it in the chat, and the folk will be willing to give you your prize. They will be willing to give you your prize. We will take a break, and when we return during the break, we will have the instrumental music that will be presented to us. Then we'll have our bookathon, and then the value nugget in that order. So we're going to have our instrumental music. Then we will follow that with the bookathon by Sister Terene Thomas, and then we will have the value nugget. And then after that, we will be right back, getting ready to go into our discussion, the hot topic issue for this evening, bridging the gap between the young and the aged. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere. Enjoy the instrumental music in the
These are the days to consult the Lord, so that our characters will be right. For he knows and he's listening out for our prayers. Okay? The song is entitled The Prayer. These are the days to consult the
Amen. It's now time for our bookathon. And I am sure that you enjoyed the chapter on love that was assigned last week. The hot topic last week was marriage and courtship. And the assignment for the reading last week was in Messages to Young People on courtship and marriage. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I learned a lot. And so tonight, I'm going to be asking you a quick question. But before I do so, I want to highlight last week's winners. We had 2 winners last week, And their names are Kyle and Daniel. Congratulations. Let's see if you can keep the winning streak going this week. All right. So Kyle and Daniel, keep playing, keep answering those questions, and keep winning those prizes. They have been winning phone cards so far. And you have the choice. You have a choice. So when you win, I message you and you can choose your prize. Isn't that amazing? So I want you to listen up. Question and marriage. Under the chapter in Messages to Young People entitled Engagement with Unbelievers, Ellen White urges one to ask all of the following questions about the future spouse, except. So you should ask all of these questions except A, what has been his past record? Is that a good question to ask? B, what degree does he have in university? C, will she be allowed to preserve her individuality? Let me repeat the question. Under the chapter entitled Engagement with Unbelievers, Ellen White urges us to ask all of the following questions about our future spouse, except A, what has been his past record? B, what degree does he have in university? C, will she be allowed to preserve her individuality? Now, you may answer these questions by clicking on my name in the chat and sending me a private message with the answer. I will then message you to tell you if you are one of the first to answer the correct answer, and I will also message you with your prize. All right. Now, your assignment for next week is from the book Education. And remember, these books are available. You can have the app on your phone. You can get the book online. You can also get it at the IDPA stores here in Mandeville or wherever you are at the ABC. And the chapter that we will be focusing on for next week is chapter 3, the knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil. What does that really mean? Let us dive deep into those truths as we study to show ourselves approved. All right, I see the answers coming in. Keep them coming and have a wonderful rest of the night as we continue with our program, Think It Through.
Good evening, everyone. I am happy to be sharing with you this evening on the value just. When you think of justice, what comes to mind? Probably fairness, the courts, or merely just doing what is right. Psalm 89 verse 14 tells us, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your own. Justice is an essential part of who God is. As Christians, we are called to incorporate this principle and practice it. The question is asked, how can I practice this? Well, the answer is found in Leviticus 19, verse 18, where it gives us the answer. It says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Justice also means that we look out for the less fortunate and the disadvantaged. We do not cause abuse by words or actions. Exodus 23 verse 2 reminds us that you shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify in dispute so as to turn aside many to pervert justice. It is God's justice mingled with his mercy in Christ that brought God's justice to the world. Good evening, everyone. I am happy to be sharing with you this on the value probably fairness, the courts, or merely just doing what is right.
value, Sister Chantal. And here we are ready to get into our discussion, having few glitches here and there, but we're delighted to have you staying with us. Think it through. We are getting ready to go into the hot button issue. Well, we had few persons who made their comments, and we hope that the technology will allow us to hear from them. So stay tuned and listen to what some folk, what are their opinions on bridging the gap between the young and the age. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shante Johnson, and here are some reasons for the gap between youth and adults. 1. Today's youths have for far greater experience in technology. Hence, it could be said that the technology gap might be one of the most significant causes of a generational gap. Greater access and use of electronic media have made the world a global village. Hence, our youth have wilder influences and are thinking differently. On the other hand, older persons tend to stick to traditional ways of thinking and doing things at a much slower pace. Younger persons exercise the patience required to deal with seniors. They often spend so much time absorbed with technology, leaving little time for conversation. Finally, there is also great disparity in value systems. The youth tend to value speed, so they like shortcuts, while older folks value more thoroughness. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shante Johnson.
So, to answer your question specifically, I've come up with what I consider to be the top 10 reasons for the generational gap within our church. Number 1, inadequate communication that needs no explanation. As the younger, everything can be out of place. They expect everything to be tidy, organized, and structured. Technology. And do we need an explanation? Clearly not. The youth have to have everything on their devices, and the oldsters are still walking around with Bible, hymnal, and quarterly in tote. Secularism. More liberal, secular generation. The oldsters tend to be more conservative. Respect. The youth are demanding respect. The adult respect should be earned. Trust. There is clearly a trust factor. I think the adults are chatting, gossiping, whereas the oldsters think that the youth are hiding and being secretive. Number 7, unexpected, unrealistic, expectation. Adults tend not to treat the youth at their right age. And number 8, impose confidence. And let me turn it around as a question. As a church, would we propose confidence in our youth to run the church for an entire quarter instead of just shadowing for in Youth Month in November? Number 9, showing genuine love. There needs to be the display of love from both parties. And number 10, and lastly, bonding, playing together and interacting. The lack of this has led to a greater distancing among our young people, between our young people and our adults. And I'm sure as you go to your next panelist, the person will speak of the solution towards this problem. Thank you. To answer your question specifically, I've come up with what I consider to be the top 10 reasons for the generational gap within our church. Number 1,
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zico Brown, and I am a member of the Miketown Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, the question has been asked is, how can we bridge the gap between the younger folks and the older folks? Now, we only have a minute, so I just want to get right into the problem that we have is experience from the perspective where the older folks believe that because they have gone through so much, they know way more than the young persons, and sometimes they don't give the young persons a chance to speak. While the young people believe that they are being stifled by the older folks. Them go on like they know everything and we don't know anything, and then you have a big war, when you end up in a war zone, and then you find out that there's a big conflict between each parties. Young people need to learn vicariously, something known as vicarious learning from other person's experiences. We have to adopt that type of attitude, while the older folks sometimes need to listen. And the truth is, you just have to leave some persons to make their own mistakes. You just have to warn them, you have to give them the information, but you cannot change anybody. The most you can do is give persons enough information for them to live their best lives, but ultimately they are going to do whatever. So simply put, let us work with it. Let us see how best we can deal with this experience issue. Allow the young people to think, allow them to grow. Don't believe older folks that you have all the answers, because the truth is you don't. And young people, let us listen, because we can become better by learning from the issues that our older folks went through and how they went through it successfully. We can learn from that. So that is one of the issues. There are so many other variables that we could combat, but right now, experience, the whole issue of experience and different perspectives from experience from the different groups can cause a major issue. All right, folks, bless up yourself. Have a great night. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zico Brown.
You. Ready? Thank you very much. There you have the clips and the opinions from different individuals, the young at heart, the aged. Now you are all online and we need to hear your feedback. Do you agree with what those persons have said? In your encounter, in your experience, what is it, the situation with you? Do you see a generation gap? Is there a generation gap? If there is a generation gap, what it is, and what is causing kind of, tension and lack of synergy and pulling together? Is there something that we can readily identify and put our hands on? We heard a number of things being itemized. What say you? Want you to open your mics, indicate, and we will open your mic. You tell me what is on your mind and how do you see this issue and how can we have it resolved? I need to hear from you. Go ahead and make sure that I hear you, what you want to say. I need you to put it out there so I can hear from you loud and clear. What is it that you want to say? All right? Who will be the first?
Hi, Pastor Harvey. Good evening.
Go ahead.
I think that sometimes young people just can't be bothered to deal with us older people. I think that is born out of the fact that they figure that we are more parent-like and they really don't want to have to get instructions from everybody. So that's part of the reason why they don't want to have to deal with older people at church.
Okay, parent-like. So is it a matter of parent-like don't want to be around you, or is it that you are talking down to them and just giving them command without having them engaging in a dialogue? Are you just establishing rules and telling them that they have to follow it without you establish those rules in values, and why should they do that? Now we hear from you. Let's see what the others have to say about this. Just unmute your mic and give me your take on this as we try to unravel this, because if there is a gap, then we need to bridge that gap. Go ahead. Where are the young people? We have heard the comments from or voice over. Do you agree? Zico talked about experience. Where are the young people? What are some of the challenges you face? Do you think that there's a generation gap between the young and the age? If so, what it is and what is it that you would like to see? We need to hear from you. We need to hear from the adults also. Go ahead. This is your time to speak. I cannot hear you. I cannot, so I'm not seeing if you're on. So I'm going to ask you to just unmute your mic and go and give me your speech. I just don't want you to write in the chat. We need to hear your voice. This is your moment. You have a responsibility in this. Two hands are raised. So unmute your mic one at a time and speak for me.
Good evening, everyone. I think that there is a gap between the generations, mainly because of our experiences. Experiences shape the way we think and the way we communicate. And it's that difference in experiences that causes that gap between the younger and the more mature generation.
Give me some example. Give me some tangible examples.
Sure. For example, to be honest, I think my generation is less patient than the more mature as it relates to how fast we want to achieve things, whether it's in our personal lives, at church, with our schoolwork, and how easily it is that we can attain information, as opposed to the generation before us that had to work a little harder. For example, education. They had to work a lot harder as it relates to studying. It was mainly books, whilst for us, information is just at a snap of our fingers. So because of that, the more mature generation sees our generation as lazy or not wanting to work for anything. But the truth of the matter is that our experiences are different. We never really had to work so hard for certain things. And it's not that we're lazy. It's just from our end, why if we don't have to? Why if we don't have to? That's saying if we don't have to do it, why do we have to do it?
Come on, isn't it true? Isn't it true that this generation believes that it's an entitlement generation? I'm entitled to it, so I deserve it, instead of putting the shoulders to the wheel and be willing to work as hard and as diligent to accomplish your goals. But you feel that, boy, I didn't ask anybody to come here. You were the ones. You and you are my parents. You engage. You brought me here. You have a responsibility to provide an education for me. Isn't that a reality that you feel that you are entitled, and because of that entitlement syndrome that you have, and comparison with those who recognize that they had to work very hard to accomplish their goals and their objectives, and they want you to learn to appreciate hard work or smart work, and then you will value what you have more. As a part of the community, the family, or the church, you have a social responsibility. Don't you have a social responsibility? Talk to me. Tell me about it.
Yes, Pastor, but I will respond to you the way I responded to someone else. I remember I was at work and this person was complaining about this generation, and I remember saying to her, your generation keeps complaining as if we pop out of nowhere. You indeed brought us here. And I'm not saying that we don't have a responsibility to ourselves and to the wider society, but really and truly, not all our generation has a level of entitlement. And if it does exist, I really want to put some of that responsibility, yes, I'm saying it, that responsibility on the generation before us. They worked so hard to ensure that we have all that they didn't, that there was a part of that level of responsibility missing. In my generation, there are a lot of barrel babies, yes, barrel babies, where a lot of parents tend to use materialistic things to grow their children instead of the principles that they learned when they were younger. And then when it is too late, they are taken by surprise by the level of entitlement. And I think that is a mistake. that a lot of the members of the generation before us made, forgetting what actually taught those principles and ensuring that that is instilled in us. And I think while some of us have it, a lot of us do not, and so the generation before needs to take responsibility
All
for
right.
that.
Thank you very much. There was another hand. Another hand. I heard you loud and clear, Sister Shashini Campbell, and I know others. You have stimulated their minds. Is it that parents must take responsibility for the gap that exists because they are not as diligent to transmit those work ethics to their children? I heard you. I don't know if they agree with you, but we will find out. Another hand was raised. Go ahead, unmute your mic and speak.
Pastor, I think the responsibility lies on both parts. The old were once young, so they should understand a bit of what the young people are experiencing, and the young will get old, hopefully, and so they too will have to face some of the difficulties that the previous generation is facing. I think the responsibility of bridging the gap lies in both parties. The young to have the mindset that they are teachable and willing to learn from the experiences of the previous generation without making too much of the same mistakes. I heard a saying once said, a wise man not only learns from his own mistakes, other people's mistakes as well. So you don't have to go through everything. You don't have to struggle through everything. Learn from other people's mistakes and build on that to go higher. And so I responsibility of the young to glean those little nuggets of wisdom. And secondly, it's the responsibility of the aged or the older folks to teach not only their own, but a village, the church community should be such that you can a younger person and their parent never come to you. You remember those days when a child could by any adult, and I think that is when you try to talk to somebody in the church, a younger person in the church, and their parents will come to you and cuss you off. So we need to get back to those times when we trust the village to raise the children, not just one person.
All right. Thank you very much. Heard you loud and clear. I heard you say that experience is important because one of the things that I heard you say is that experiences, probably parents are the age are overprotective because of their experience. They have gone through it. They have seen the pitfalls. They have been there, done that. They got wet behind the ears, and they don't want you to make that mistake because you will not live long enough to make all the mistakes. So they are trying to protect you. But I heard one of the commentators in one of the clips, I think it's Zico Brown, he said that you must allow people to make their mistakes and learn from their mistakes. And by learning, they will gain their experience. Do you agree with that? And do you think that the aged are doing enough to transmit the value to the young people so that when they're off the scene, they can continue with the legacy? I heard somebody say that, would you entrust the youth instead of giving them token treatment to run a quarter? Are young people ready for that when you can't find them to do an AY? Tell me what you think about that. Go ahead, I need to hear your comment. Young people and the age alike. Go ahead.
Pastor, I
Unmute
just
you.
want to say
Go
one
ahead.
last thing, which is that as I said before, you just mentioned that about making your own mistakes. Brethren, I'm telling you, if you see me going down the wrong path, going over a cliff, and you know what is over there, tell me. Do not make me make that mistake and break up my foot, please. There are some mistakes that are unnecessary. You know, I have to make them to learn, and I can be told, I can be taught. And I think there is wisdom in that as well. So yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes myself, and while I've learned from them, please, I am somebody who appreciates being taught, being told, so I don't make those mistakes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I heard you. You must have a teachable spirit because you're a part of the community. You have the social responsibility for being that community, for being in the church. You have that social responsibility. You are loyal to this community that you are a part of, and you must demonstrate teamwork. I need to hear from the others. What are some of the other things that you see that is creating, or is the divide just in the figmentation of your imagination? Is it real that there's a real generation gap that exists? And what are some of those things that you can identify where you can say, well, I am over here, the age is over there is no middle ground, and how can we go? We need some tangible things, and I am going to ask some things on the table, but I need to hear from you. Young people, you would say that there's a gap. Tell me what are some of those things and what you would like to see differently. And if the adults are there, what are your observations of the young people? They say that there's a gap. Do you agree that the fault is for the age because you're talking down to them? Or do you have a reverse side to adults? I need to hear from you. Go ahead.
Pastor, I think one of the things that I've always heard Lance say, my husband Lance, and he's been a youth leader from forever, as far as I remember, is that youth leaders have to be a friend of the youth. And I will tell you that he does get a different response from a young person compared to me. So everybody will call him Lance, straight up, or Uncle Lance. But when they see me and they're relating to me, they call me Elder Thomas or Elder Simone. I don't quickly get that people gravitate towards me like that. And part of it, I think, is because Lance is just so much more sociable than I am. And so I do believe that one of the things that can bring down the barriers and the gap and the divide is just being a friend to the youth, being that person who they can come to and talk to. There is a divide, there is a gap, and it's how we adults, knowing what we've been through, how it is that we communicate to the young people that we've been there, and we're just about how we feel and share that with them, share our testimonies. We're not sharing the testimonies to glorify sin, we're sharing to say, guys, we've been there. Guess what? It's not worth it. So I think that's one of the ways that we can break down the divide, being honest with young people.
Okay.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you very much. Go ahead. I'll comment after. Go ahead.
So I think that the most thing that people are interested in is relationship, and many people, as they talk about the divide between the aged and the youth, it has to do with there's no relationship. I wouldn't necessarily place the emphasis of blame at the aged feet, and I wouldn't necessarily place it at the youth feet either. It has to do with a relationship. So you have to develop a relationship before you can start to try to punish, try to teach. You cannot, even with the best interest at heart, you cannot teach someone who don't feel that you have their interest, their well-being at the forefront of your thoughts, right? So I think youth needs to remember that adults are responsible for them. It's just a fact. Their thoughts, their well-being, everything is the adult's responsibility. In the long run, we have to make sure that they come out a certain way. We also have to remember that youth, we have been in your shoe. Not to say that you cannot make any of the mistakes that I made. The young lady said before, it's very important that all the mistakes that I have made, you do not make them. There are some mistakes, as she rightly said, that are not worth making. There are some mistakes that are not relevant. There's some mistakes that it is better if you never made them. There are some you can learn from, but there are some that will set you so far back in life that it is totally irrelevant. And this is serious. So for the aged, Sister Simone just said, Brother Lance has a better relationship. Why is that? Because a better interaction, because he has a better relationship. He goes there. So what we can do, and if you've been a teacher, if you've been in a teacher's shoe, this will some of the times define how your year will go. How do you start your year? Do you start with punishment, or do you start with getting the youth? Let's make an agreement. Everybody has an input. However, in the long run, there are sometimes you cannot cross all the lines. There needs to be some disparity, some level of there's a line between me and you, but it must not be done in love. So don't blame it, don't put it at the youth's feet. And guess what, youth? You have to go that journey. So remember, a lot of the times right now, especially in the church, out in the world is different, and they still have to think. But in the church, having a knowledge of God, a knowledge of where you're going, and a knowledge of what is right, which should be taught to you in church or maybe from your inner being, we still have to make sure that you have to think about where to lead. You are too one day going to be in the same spot, advising somebody about the same thing.
Right.
So
thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for your wise counsel. I heard you. Let's hear from Elder Bedford. Justin Bedford, his hand is raised. Unmute your mic and make your contribution, and then I will respond what I think about what you have said so far.
Yes, Pastor. Years ago, when I was a youth, even far back then, the problem of generation gap existed. Today, many years later, when I'm on the other side of the fence, the problem is still there. Therefore, it's not a one-sided thing. I think both parties create this problem, both of us, old and young. As a youth, I attended a church where Youth Day started. It was easy getting the board to approve something like that, but it went off well because they had some young people there, intelligent, bright, growing spiritually, well educated, but our leaders wasn't up to par when it comes to things like these. And so the underlying problem, Pastor, in that is supremacy. Supremacy. It might sound strange, and it still exists today as far as the youth is concerned. If you say, go to my church, Maranatha, and look on the bulletin, you will see some logos, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter. And this is the young people, this is a young people world. And this is excitement for us, this church for them. But for us older people, to catch up with technology don't really mean much to us. So the supremacy is still there. But when it comes to the old people now, tradition, they want to hold on to tradition. I remember 2003, 2004, when we introduced something at Maranatha, when the elders go on the platform for divine service, there's a special song. It wasn't being done, but it was reintroduced. Song like, those songs, Pastor, when you enter the platform, trying to remember one right now. With reverence let thy saints appear. Songs like those. And an old lady in the audience couldn't hold her peace. And she shouted out, praise the Lord, church again, start church again. And so the tradition and the supremacy sort of create this generation gap. But I'm hoping that as we come to the end of the world, that we can freely find a way where we can work together. Those who have it and can help the church to grow, and those who have it, we can come together and work.
All right. Thank you very much, Elder Bedford. So I heard from the number of you that spoke earlier. One person spoke about relationship, that there needs to be a deliberate and intentional approach to forge meaningful relationship with the young people. The young people feel that they are being judged unfairly by the adults. So they don't give them any room. They feel that they have arrived and things must be that way. So they are judged by them and imputing motive to what they do. So we think we need to establish meaningful relationships so that the folk feel valued, and that their contribution matters. So we need to forge relationship so that the folk can feel that you are with them. You are not just there to correct them, but you are there with them at their level so that they can feel free to relate to you. And one of the barriers in that is that you believe that you must be always in the old school. You take a long journey. This generation is a fast-going generation. They want everything quick. And you have the long, drawn-out way of doing things. They want to be on Twitter, Facebook, but you're not taking time out to learn their world so that you can get in them with them on Twitter and Facebook and all of these things. You say you're too old for Facebook, and that is where they live, so you can't relate to them. So I feel that you need to create that kind of thing because you too have social responsibility in the community because things and times have changed, and don't allow tradition, as was just mentioned here, to say that everything must be done your way. You have been there. You are traditional Adventist, and you know what Adventism is all about. So you better take it or leave it, and you don't make any room for them to apply current day situation. So that either widen it a little further. I don't want you to tell me about that. Then he said, we must show responsibility to them. These are some of the things that I've heard from you. So these, and we are taking notes because we are not just having a talk. We are not just thinking it through. We are thinking it through because we want to provide meaningful solutions to forge those relationships and have everybody utilizing their talents with the responsibility that once they're a part of the community, they have an obligation not only to think about themselves, what can I do to make the adults feel that they're a part, instead of one is waiting on the others to come and nobody is making the move. Talk to me. Sashini, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, Pastor. I think it's important that we look within us. It is really important, both the youth and the aged or the more mature part of our congregations, because the youth really and truly, we are supposed to be looking to those who are here before us to guide us. And I'm really glad that Sister Sibon spoke about honesty, because it is really important. I remember one youth day we had a planned program and it went somewhere else because for once the adults came together and they had a conversation about experiences, and it was a very, very honest discussion. The Nemard's family, they were there with us, and a lot of the young people at Georges Valley, they could tell it was very emotional, and the young people opened up because they realized that they could actually talk, and it felt like a safe space. But if we within ourselves can't be kind, compassionate, gentle, loving, and confidential, then no safe space is created for that relationship to happen. So in order for relationships to be forged, there has to be trust. And one cannot be trusted if there is no kindness, no form of consideration and love. So those things are things that it means that there's a lack of those things. Why it is that this very important relationship is not forged between the aged and the young.
Thank you very much. Some strong points there. Compassion, honesty, trust. If I talk to you and tell you how I am feeling inside, you cannot be like an fridge that leaks everything. You must be confidential to keep the information that was said to you in trust, or else too many people are like old fridge, leaky, and nobody can tell you anything. So the young people will have you at a distance. So you have to know that if they come to you in confidence, they want you to keep
that much. Well, to be honest, a lot of young people, they are fire right now. For example, we're in quarantine and we are at home, we have internet, we have the television, and a lot of young people are using sites in which they're not supposed to. But what I want to actually point out is that seeing that we do not talk about sex that much, and it's not a topic that a lot of young people might feel comfortable to talk to the adults about. Some are doing it, but yet they're hiding it. Because if they do go to the older folks and actually tell them about it, then they will bash them, or they would tell other persons that they're having sex, when we, the church, needs to educate the younger people about sex, because sex is a beautiful thing, and the media actually put an image on sex so in which it might look really nasty while it is a beautiful thing. So I think we need to talk more about sex to our young people so that they will feel comfortably in talking about it, comfortably in relating it to others. And if they do get it out and talk about it, then the feelings that will come when they come, they will know what to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And this is the kind of forthrightness that we want to engender on this show, this platform, Think It Through with Pastor Harvey. We are dealing with real issues in finding real solutions. And you have heard it, and that is true, because people don't want to talk about sex, as she has mentioned. It is tabooed because the older generation don't talk much about that. They don't want to relate about it, so they can't talk to the young people about it when they should be open enough to learn how the body functions. Because when you talk about sex, there are a number of things involving that word. So we must be willing and open. You have heard it. There are a lot of avenues that are out there where people can go to get information, and our young people, believe it or not, they need more conversation, even in the church, to talk about it. Talk about it in the church, talk about it in presentation. How can you cope with it? The young people are eating salt. They have nature. They have these peer pressure that is brought to bear on them. How can they overcome these surges, these advances? How can they relate and still maintain their responsibility within the community that they're a part? They want to be loyal to it, but they need adults who have been there, done that, to be willing to sit down with them and talk to them. How can I cope with this? After my monthly, there is a surge of energy and a desire. How can I relate to it? How can I redirect my energies? Young men, you are there, you're drinking a lot of pumpkin seed juice and mix up. How can I cope with that? How can the Christian within the environment cope with these pressures, maintain your sanity, and go forward? These are it, and we have taken note of that. More presentation, on sex among the young and the age and discuss that. Dwayne Thompson, I see you raise your hand. Go ahead.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you very much, Pastor Harvey. When I was much younger, coming up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, I spoke with an elder who saw me outside. And his question was, what are you doing outside? So I asked him the question, what are you doing outside? And he said that I was very out of order and I'm disrespectful and I have no manners whatsoever. But then his son came on the outside and he told his son to go in, and his son asked him the same question that I asked him. What are you doing outside? And so one of the things we need to do as both young people and adults, we need to be genuine. We need to be genuine. A young person is one of the quickest persons to find out hypocrisy, to find out that you're not genuine, to find out that you're a pretender. And when they find you out, that's where they're going to draw the line. So when you're out there pretending that you are a Christian, they're going to see through it based on how you live, based on how you talk, based on how you walk. And so we want to set an example for our youth. So if we want the youth to come to us and to relate their challenges, their problems, then we need to be genuine to them. As you mentioned earlier, that we don't need to be old fridge. So when they come to us, let us show them that we care about them and the information they give to us. Let us not, let's say, not bruise their head, but rather let us deal with them in a subtle manner so that they can respect and love us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate on with us. Because of technical issues, we weren't able to play your clip, but it is good that you have made your contribution. Welcome, and we're delighted to have you. We want to hear from the others because we are trying to find solutions. We want everybody that is within the community to recognize his or her social responsibility. And that loyalty must be exhibited within the community, because we're all committed to it. And what can we do to provide that solution so that everybody can be on board? One person said being genuine and reliable, and that is key as we go forward. So I need to hear from you. Do you think at this current time and age that the technology is really a challenge for the age? And what is the young people's responsibility, since they are the techie generation? Do you think you have a social responsibility to ensure that that does not remain a barrier to free communication between the aged and yourself? Do you have a social, get them au fait with technology so that they can communicate? What do you think about that? Give me your feedback, and how can we make sure that everybody is on the same wavelength? I need to hear from you on that.
Pastor?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Good evening. The responsibility of teaching the older ones how to use the internet and the devices that's available is well and good. But the reality is, just as how for those of us who are master guides, who would have learned how to tie the granny knot, would have learned that you go right over left and then you go right over left again, because a granny is stuck in her ways. So the reality is, they in their mind, it is this way and there is no other way. So even if you're trying to show them, okay, you can achieve something in a less critical time, because of the mentality, and so that is where the challenge comes when the younger person is supposed to impart the information to the older folks. Sometimes they just don't want to learn. And it's when they're in a situation like COVID, when they will have to use something, then they may come around and say, okay, well, thank God it gives us a grand opportunity to show them. But outside of this, then normally speaking, you hardly get the interest from them, as if they want to learn. The teachable spirit that should be there, it's really not there.
Okay, Thank you very much. I have heard you on that. So you're saying the young people are willing to provide the support in training the adults, but you are saying that the adults probably are not willing to learn? Or is it that the young people are intentional in keeping the adults ignorant so that they can live in cyberspace, and when they are there, the young people, the adults can't figure out what they are doing on these social platforms, so they decide to keep them in ignorance? You can tell me, it can go both ways. You
Well,
see, it can
let
go
me
both
respond to that,
ways, and I
Pastor.
need to hear from some more of our adults,
Let me respond to that, Pastor.
because sometimes you have heard it, that sometimes one of our young people, they have 3 or different social platforms or social areas that they're on. Twitter, they are on WeChat, Fling, they have all kind of stuff, and sometimes it's just for a small number of persons, because they don't want the adults to get into their secret. Probably is a trust factor again, and we have to begin now to be open with each other, to be honest with each other, to be less judgmental in dealing with the issues that do confront our young people and even adults. We have our issues, so we have to make sure that we relate to them and they can see that we are genuine. Don't let them feel that we are just superhuman and we can't make mistakes. They want to know that we feel vulnerable too. We are vulnerable. And once they see that you are vulnerable, then they can relate to you because you are touched with the feelings of their infirmities. All right, Tamara. See you raise your hand. Go ahead, Tamara. We have a few minutes to go for this show, so we need to hear you. Go ahead, Tamara.
Hi, good night. Well, it's not Tamar, it's Khalifa.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that there's this certain pride that comes with having wisdom. Like for an older person, you know that you've been through it, you've successfully gone through it. You can rank it as an achievement. Yes, that I was young and I overcome certain things, and you gain wisdom. So you feel a bit prideful about the fact that you can rank it as an achievement. Now, I've had interactions with other people where it was as if they were talking down to me instead of teaching me. And I mean, like, there's a certain inferior complex that I guess we're supposed to deal with, and it's a big turnoff for the youth. I can personally say that. Um, just piggybacking off what Mr. Daly, Ryan Daly said, yeah, Pastor Ryan said about having a teachable spirit. I mean, as young people, we're often told that we're supposed to listen to our elders. And I just want to emphasize that as older persons, it's important that you also listen to the younger persons too, because we're living in a different age where things are different. And if you don't listen to us, then you're not going to completely understand. Yes, we understand that you've been through it before and you've garnered certain wisdom and knowledge about certain situations. But in some sense, the experiences will be different and are going to be different. For example, it might take you a longer time to get to a certain goal, but for us, we have social media, we have these new opportunities opening up to us so we can get there quicker. It's not necessarily that, as what Sister Sushani said, that we're lazy or just that we want quick money or etc. It's just that these opportunities are there, and as logical and sensible people, we're going to go after them. And yeah, that's just what I'm saying.
Thank you very much. I heard you loud and clear. And this is where everybody's voice is important, and we need to hear from everyone. Thank you. The adults need to listen more, because this generation, they are up on the technology. information is at their fingertip and they have access to information. And I can tell you a lot of them are brighter, wiser than a lot of us if we are willing to acknowledge it, and that they want to be heard. If they're a part of the community, they are not just there as fixtures. Their voices must be heard when you're making plans, when you're deciding on issues. Do you take them into consideration, or you just make your decision and inform them? Could that be one of the reasons why there's this divide among the young and the aged? We want to hear from you. I see an iPhone. Raise your hand. I don't know who is that, but if you're an iPhone and you are there, raise your hand. And then I don't know if Pastor Clark want to chime in and tell me what is happening in his neck of the woods or whatever.
Hello, good night. So just wanting to add to what the previous speaker had just said. Yes, we both need to listen, both younger individuals and more mature persons. But I feel like listening, there needs to be emphasis placed on listening. Don't listen with a made-up mind or your own perceptions. Listen with purpose. Actually listen to what is being said and how it is being said, so that the interpretation of what is said is not your own, but what is really being communicated to you. Yep, that's it.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate my young people this evening and the adults talking, because once we begin to talk and keep the communication line open, once we're willing to think it through, contemplate our social responsibility to the community that we're a part of, because we're loyal to this community, we're not going anywhere. So despite the challenges, we want to fix these challenges so that there can be symbiotic relationships. We can pull together. There can be evidence of teamwork, people working together to achieve the overall good that will benefit this community that we are a part, because there is no community like this and we are not going anywhere else. So if there is problem, we must discuss them. We must come to the table as equal, not superior or inferior, but we are there to think and to listen. And when we listen, we must decide on an action to go forward to make the lives of others better, because that is why we are here. So my responsibility, your responsibility, is to make the lives of the adults better, and the adults must make your life better. I see senior, your hand is up. We need to hear you. And then I see a question there. You're going to have to open your mic and ask me those questions. All right? Go ahead, senior.
Yes, Pastor. In the Jamaican proverb, you cannot teach older new tricks. Many of the elder persons allow this proverb to be on them because they won't listen. Say, children are to be seen and not heard. And that is one of the big problems. They went with that kind of slave mentality to say, all right, I am the boss, I'm big and you're small. And so that kind of thing was just transmitted. You must only be heard. Seen and not be heard. So do what I say. And so they don't take the time to really listen, to hear your point, and to learn. They don't remember they can learn from the small person or the young person. Because I am at the age where I learn from the older one and from the younger one, and in between to join both the young and the old. And basically all what the person has been saying, it is true. Listening is key. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the question was asked in the chat. Young people, what can adults do to close the gap? What are some suggestions that you want to make that you need to see the adults, what the adults can do to close the gap? I see you raise your hand, 2 participants. Go ahead, Sashini. Sashini, go ahead.
Yes, Pastor. Well, in order to close the gap, there are a few things that we can do. Firstly, is to have an open mind. Having an open mind doesn't mean that both principles or important values will be compromised. It just means that we have put ourselves in a space where we can really understand where the next person is coming from. So whether we are of the aged group or if we are of the young or the adult or the youth group, it is important that we try our best to understand the next person or the next side, because it doesn't make any sense for us to try to interpret what they're trying to say to us when we really and truly are not trying to understand where they're coming from. So once we have an open mind and we accept both sides for what they are, so the age have to accept the youth first, that the youth come from an era where things are faster, more easily available. They can achieve things a lot sooner. The older or the aged need to accept this. Don't resist it. Don't complain. It is what it is. And the same for the young. We need to accept that they're coming from a place where things were harder. They had to work harder. They had to wait longer. And so this has shaped the way they think, just as how our situation has shaped the way we think. Once we've reached that level of acceptance, meaning just like your friends, you know them, you know the good side and the bad side, you accept them. That's where it starts. Accepting each other for who we are, and then we can move forward with understanding each other. And that has to come from a place of love, compassion, accepting, understanding, and then we can start communicating.
Thank you very much. I heard you loud and clear. And I don't know, Dawes, you want to come back in on that? I think
Yes,
I saw
I do.
your mic is unmuted. Go ahead. We need to hear from you.
So many of the issues in society today actually starts from home. If you're going to train a child, the parents, they need to have some form of knowledge. And if this environment is not created wherein the child or the children will not learn certain values, then when they go within the community, I'm talking the community would be school, church, wherever. If they go in the community and the community may try to change them, it might not work or it will be not effective because they're going back to the same environment. And this is the environment that they actually spend most of the time in. So first, the environment needs to be changed, or there needs to be some positive effect placed upon the environment. Because if you teach them, they're going back to the same thing. And it just makes no sense. This is my point.
Thank you very much. Boy, this is stimulating discussion. This is on the ball. This is our young people feeling free to talk what is on their mind. What are the issues that are confronting them? Young people, persons now are having children. Sometimes they don't know how to teach their children. This is an area. So here comes the community in which we're a part to take greater responsibility in to provide parental training, how to transmit values. And that is why we have this program, Think It Through, where we can look at the issues, we can look at character development. And as we go along, we are going to be looking at values, zeroing on those things, how to establish a worldview, because you're interpreting the world through your worldview. And that is why we have this here. It is so good to have my young people here sharing so that we can know what to do and plan for church activities to come alive and not just to have traditional programs and have programs for programs' sake, but the programs that we plan and implement must be to address the felt needs of our people, the young and the age alike. Pastor, tell me if you have anything to tell me there from your side before we take the wrap this evening.
Sure, my pastor. Well, my friends on YouTube, maybe they are joining us live on Zoom. Not seeing much activity there, but here I'm seeing some conclusion to the matter somewhat. Earlier, you highlighted the question that was asked. What should adults start doing now to close the gap? Someone rebutted or asked a question saying, what are the youth's responsibility to close the gap? And I see Tamara commenting, listen, understand our world and trend, be honest, genuine, relatable, love God, have good Christian values, and do not force us, instead guide. And see Terry there saying, I think added to that, the young need to get off the devices for a while and have real life conversations. And whereas the older or the age can get on to the social media outlets and engage in dialogue with the youth. So, and my little take on it, my pastor, I believe the youth and the age, we do not have an autonomous right to only teach or to be recipients. We should have time where we impart what we know, as the young people impart our technological skills or whatever else as advantages we have, and we take time to listen. So it should be mutual, as I say, and there must be a place where we can reach to close that gap. And I think this program is one of the opportunities we have to close the gap. And let me just finally throw this in, my pastor, as we go. Another comment here: principles to have an effective conversation. Master the courage to speak, make it real and tackle the problems. Take responsibility for what you say, and let silence do the heavy lifting. So there we go, my pastor. We are getting a lively discussion here.
Thank you very much. Well, we don't have unlimited time. We have come to the end of this edition of Think It Through for another week. We thank you very much for your participation. We have taken on board your suggestions because we want to make it right. And here are my few closing comments on the topic. Then I will tell you what we are going to be looking on for next week. So these are my closing thoughts. The goal of socializing younger generations into responsible citizenship or citizens cannot be accomplished without attending to issues of membership within the community. There needs to be inclusion, not only on a superficial level, but the inclusion should be in the planning and decision making, and the young people cannot be given token treatment. The ties that bind younger generations to the broad community are reciprocal. We must do unto them, and it goes both ways. The young people have a social responsibility to reach out to the age, to let the age feel part of their circle, and don't shut them out because of your advancement in technology, or you keep them out. There must be that genuine coming together. It must be reciprocated, reciprocal in nature. When young people feel that the community cares about them and that they have a say in the community affairs, they are more likely to identify with the community's goals and to want to commit to its service. When youth feel connected to others in the community, they are less likely to violate the norms and more likely to serve the common good of the community that they are a part of. The choices of adult authority figures matter in the process. They play a critical role in promoting the younger generation support of the community. It must be there. Individuals who are socially responsible and are good citizens are involved in the affairs of the community. You can't be an absentee landlord. You have to be actively involved. And I can tell you, once that is done, then we will see a greater of togetherness. Historically, youth groups have a shared common mission in fostering the character of the next generation of citizens by integrating young people into the norms and more of his social order. We need to see these. This is what we hope to foster in this Maranatha district of churches. This is what we want to see engender for those who are watching us, those who are participating. This is how we want to make sure that everybody within the community take charge and deal with the matter. It cannot be overstated. We need everyone to be a part of the community. No one is excluded. We are in this thing together, and we must work with each other to make it possible. I know we can when we think about each of us thinks of his or her social responsibility. Once you are loyal to this community, you're not going anywhere else. You have to find a solution. And we need teamwork because together each achieves more. And this is what we want as we go forward. Next week, there are a number of things on our minds that we are thinking about. We are thinking about this whole period and the COVID-19 impact on the school, or young people who should be doing examination and they're not able to have the face-to-face with their lecturers. How are the parents and these students coping with these kind of issues? Should we have a night when we invite the parents and our fifth formers and sixth formers to come online so that they can talk about these issues and what are some of the solutions that we can provide for them as they grapple with this level of anxiety and fear of the unknown? Will they be prepared to do the examination when they have lost so many hours of face-to-face contact? These are issues, real issues that are affecting our young people. But they have decided, and we have looked on a topic for this week, and they are saying, why does reading the Bible feel like a burden? Why does reading the Bible feel like a burden? Is it so? Well, we will talk about that next week. And if time permits, then we will, the other week, we'll look at the anxiety of school when with the exam. So we will invite the parents. So I'm giving the parents 1 week and the students to begin to think about it, because we're going to bring you on and think it through, to talk about some of those anxious moments and what you're going through. But thank you for joining us tonight. We are delighted to have you with us. And we can only be better when we are excellent citizens and we demonstrate the whole character development of being just to one another. God bless you. Take care. Love you. See you tomorrow on this platform. But next week, Tuesday, for Think It Through for another edition. Be right here. Invite your friends to come. This is where the action is. We are not just talking. We are thinking through, and we are providing meaningful solutions to real problems for our young people. Take care until we meet again next week.